Hey folks, I did not have a good idea for a video this week, but where one door doesn't open, another door opens. That was the sentence I wrote in the script. For those of you who don't know, a little over a year ago, YouTuber Smud Boy and his buddies covered my video, The Critical Drinker is Built on Straw Men, on their podcast, and generally made themselves look very goofy. In response, I put together a non-exhaustive video that covered some of their incredibly poor rebuttals to my arguments. Those including spending half an hour lecturing me on my opinion on a film that none of them had seen, failing to realize that many of their critiques were simply rewordings of the exact point I was making, and generally muddling through my video without comprehending anything beyond sentence fragments. They also displayed this bizarre technical issue where every single time they paused my video, it would skip forward, cutting entire words and phrases out and making my sentences incomprehensible. Unsurprisingly, since they weren't paying attention to begin with, they didn't notice that my sentences had words cut out, which really goes to show the quality of this commentary. This week, they tried again, dedicating another 2.5 hours of their lives to misunderstanding my words, and as is standard, I offered to speak with them directly to clear up some of the explicit falsehoods they fabricated about me and my arguments, but unsurprisingly, while these middle-aged men are comfortable spending 5 hours of their remaining lifespans complaining about me, they're not comfortable engaging with me directly. Oh well. If nothing else, I do have to appreciate these guys lowering the bar for the rest of us. I don't know if you can tell, but between writing this video and actually recording it, I have had a little bit to drink. Personally, I think that makes it more fun. Today, rather than essentially remaking a video I already made, which frankly I don't necessarily think these guys deserve, I thought I would just show you what I consider to be the funniest thing that has ever happened to me online. For context, my video, Nerdrotic and Pattern Recognition, covered some examples of ways in which anti-woke media grifters will make dozens of predictions about the future, then sweep all their failed predictions under the rug, giving the impression of a high degree of predictive accuracy when in fact they're only counting their hits and ignoring their misses. One way I described this phenomenon was as an example of survivorship bias, which, if you understand what survivorship bias is, should require very little explanation. Unfortunately, as we're about to see, these guys are a little bit iffy on that term. Please note that I am not cutting myself off in this clip. This is just where they started my sentence. Almost entirely on guesswork and survivorship bias.
Survivorship bias. How does that factor in? Where is the?
He should flash a picture of the aircraft being shot if he's going to use terms like survivorship bias.
I want.
Because otherwise, I'm going to assume he doesn't understand what the fuck that term means.
Yeah, I want to know. They use these terms. I want them to explain. Like, they have these. I don't know. Maybe they just learned them that week at school, and they're like, "Oh, this is a thing. Cool." And you're like, "Okay, cool."
It's like people using semicolons, and you ask them what a semicolon does, and they just stare at you.
Oh yeah.
Now, there's a lot wrong here. From the fact these guys cut me off the instant I used the term survivorship bias to complain that I hadn't already explained what the term meant, which, fair. My bad. In the future, I'll do my best to make sure that my videos continue conveying information even after you've paused them. Although, in this case, I actually didn't give a dictionary definition of the term because I trust that if my audience doesn't understand what a word means, they'll either ask me or just look it up. Besides that, they baselessly speculate that survivorship bias is a term that I only just learned this week, which is a fact that's about to be very funny, and more importantly, they said this.
He should flash a picture of the aircraft being shot if he's going to use terms like survivorship bias. Because otherwise I'm going to assume he doesn't understand what the fuck that term means.
What Fish Guy is referring to here is this popular image, representing a common example of survivorship bias. And if you don't know the story, the abridged version is, all those red dots are places that surviving World War II bombers took damage. Because only the surviving bombers made it back from missions that, obviously, one might incorrectly draw the conclusion that this chart represents the most common places that a plane takes damage, when in actual fact this diagram excludes all of the planes that never made it back, leaving out a ton of important data. From this, you can infer a few different things that I'll leave you to check out on your own time if you haven't already inferred them. See, survivor, because it was like all the planes that survived, and ship, because planes are the ships of the sky, obviously, and bias because, the mechanics, I guess, liked both men and women. Survivorship bias. But here's the very funny thing. See, I know for a fact that Smudboy and co. have been shown this exact image before because I, yes, me, showed it to them over a year ago. Here's how they reacted to that. Every one of your beloved childhood films, there's a Friday the 13th Part 6 and a Star Wars holiday special. The hell are you doing here?
No, those were made for other reasons.
What was that plane with the red dots? What was that all about?
9/11.
No, oh god, words.
What was the plane with the red dots? Is that
The most likely parts where a plane gets hit.
right? Exactly. And the whole logic was the engineers were like, we should armor the vehicle where all of our generally seen dots are located, and then
Where we usually get hit.
but the obvious answer is, well, why don't we just not make a plane that doesn't get shot at or something? What was,
Just fly higher.
yeah, something like, it was like some simple thing like that. Like that was what? But what does that have to do with this?
They don't know what it means. Like at all. They don't know what it means. No, we're listening to that again.
You should flash a picture of the aircraft being shot. If he's gonna use terms like survivorship bias. Because otherwise I'm gonna assume he doesn't understand what the fuck that term means.
What was that plane with the red dots? What was that all about?
9/11.
No, oh god, words.
What was the plane with the red dots? Is that
The most likely parts where a plane gets hit.
right? Exactly. And the whole logic was the engineers were like, we should armor the vehicle where all of our generally seen dots are located, and then
Where we usually get hit.
but the obvious answer is, well, why don't we just not make a plane that doesn't get shot at or something?
Do you see why I couldn't not talk about this? To be clear, I have no problem with them not knowing what a term means. Learning is fun, and I hope that they try it one day. But I'm sitting here listening to these guys lecturing me on something they know actually nothing about. Just to run down the list really fast. No, the chart does not represent the places a plane is most likely to be shot. No, the solution to the presented problem wasn't to make a plane that doesn't get shot or fly higher. And that has everything to do with this because survivorship bias is a cognitive bias that causes people to mistakenly recognize patterns by ignoring data that has failed to pass a relevant test. In the Nerdrotic case, anti-woke people remember their successful predictions and forget their failed predictions, leading to the impression that they have a near-perfect success rate because they only remember the successes. This is a very obvious example of survivorship bias. I didn't think that I had to explain this. It's a term that I just learned last week. But you know, I guess Fish Guy wasn't there on the old stream. Maybe he would have understood. But okay, as I was putting this together, I did end up realizing that actually there is another clip that deserves to appear in this video, so I'll just play it here. The context is that Nerdrotic claimed that woke Marvel caused Disney Plus to lose a lot of subscribers, but the article that he linked proved almost the exact opposite. Apologies for the words that are being randomly cut out of my sentence. That is because the Smud Boys are incompetent, not because I didn't say them. Failure. And Gary even has the numbers to back. By all accounts, lose about 2.5 million subscribers. And if I were an anti-woke halfwit, I would probably immediately assume that this loss came directly as a result of woke Marvel or whatever. The only problem with this assessment is that as soon as anti-woke halfwit Malachi made this prediction, they took a closer look at the numbers, using nothing but the article Gary helpfully flashed on screen before not linking it in the description. I wonder why. Oh, that's right. Disney Plus actually gained subscribers in North America, and the loss was entirely a result of Disney losing the rights to stream cricket matches in India. Now, of course, you could fairly say here, Malachi, Gary isn't making bad predictions. He's just lying. He read the article, he knows the real cause, and is intentionally obfuscating it. And you're probably right. This isn't an example of the anti-wokes failing to observe a pattern. It's an example of them being unprincipled grifters. That or Gary is illiterate. But I'm still counting it because
I mean, that is a good point. It's like if the reference point about the MCU is about cricket matches that are completely unrelated to the MCU.
First of all, I do have to give credit where credit is due. Fish Guy did correctly ascertain that I made a good point. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it's nice to be recognized. But oh boy, is the silence from Red Hood over here quite deafening. This is a common feature of this podcast and several others like it. confidently proclaim something to be true, be proven wrong with objective reality, and suddenly forget you said anything. If I were an anti-woke halfwit, I would probably immediately assume that this loss came directly as a result of woke Marvel or whatever. The only problem with this Anyhow, you should subscribe to me because it'd be funny, you should like this video because it'd be emotionally touching, and you should check out the excerpt from my novel in the description because it would be hot.